that when we are working on that portfolio, we feel like putting anything and everything and showing that how much work we have done. They will not read it through. They will say like, okay, this is so much of gyan, I'm not going to read it. My portfolio, your portfolio, anybody else's portfolio, right? What will not be common is those variations, those problem statement variations, like very different, and the trade-offs which you'll take, that will be very different.
Hi everyone, my name is Simran Pandit and I'm a product designer at ThoughtSpot and welcome back to Framework. So, Framework is a podcast where I connect with designers, builders, founders, design founders, where we talk about something beyond just pixels and prototypes to understand how great designers actually think, make decisions, and build meaningful solutions. So, today's episode is the one which almost every designer has been waiting for, whether you are applying for internships or for a full time role. Even every senior product designer have probably asked themselves, what are actually these hiring managers looking for? So, well, today we have got someone directly who has been on the other side of the table. So, our guest has probably seen or reviewed more portfolios than what we have even opened in our whole lives. And she has helped shape products like Talent Digital and now at Keka as the Associate Design Director. So, if you are preparing for your next design interview, you're basically sitting across the table for someone who has been making those hiring decisions. So, welcome our new guest.
Hi Simran. Yes,
Hi,
hi.
Divya. How are you?
Good,
Good.
thanks for having me. I have been part of this design industry from the past almost 10 plus years now. I'm a NIFT graduate, by the way, and I also was at the that side of the table where what to make, what not to make, and now I have answers for all, of
Yeah.
course. I've started my journey with e-com, retail, and then fintech for almost 4 years, and then 3 years I was in edtech domain, and now it is Keka, which is HRMS platform. So I'm director of design there, and I'm hiring. So it will be a very good conversation with you on all the points I actually will
Wow.
cover. We will cover today. Yes.
Yeah, let's go. So, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for taking out your time, especially on a weekend, to be here and answering all those questions that I have been getting from all the students I'm connecting with. And hopefully, this is going to be a really good conversation and insightful for the audience as well. So, let's begin with the very first thing that every designer out there is actually have their like minds around, which is the portfolio. So, I feel like first of all, we spend so many weeks, hours, time, months in actually building and rebuilding and polishing our portfolios, visually perfecting the case studies and all those things. But only a few actually stand out. And that's exactly what I feel is like very important in terms of portfolio. What everyone is actually asking around. So, what do you think that while you are reviewing a portfolio, what are the qualities subconsciously that you're looking for?
Okay. That's also one of the user experience
Yeah.
problem, I would say, when you are making a portfolio, right? So when I look at someone's portfolio, imagine I have worked in fintech, and in fintech you have so many jargons, you have so many terminologies which that you use, and you are so well versed with it that you actually don't think that the end user might not know
Hmm.
it, right? So you design it in a way that it's skimmable, but when I read it, it doesn't make sense to me because I am not good at that job. I
Yeah.
might see what you have solved, but you have to be very simple. So I feel like anybody who says I go through that portfolio, I feel that's a very uncomfortable conversation to have because you have to see almost 40 to 60 portfolios per day,
Yeah.
right? So it only is like you have to give like some 40 seconds. In those 40 seconds, you actually skim it, and then you see that, okay, is it structured, is it not? And then you say, okay, this is shortlisted, this is not, right? So that structure has to be in place. And what I do is, maybe we'll cover it later, but what I do is I just see what problem you are solving.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. A lot of portfolios say we redesigned this whole app, or we redesigned this whole
Mhm.
checkout flow. That's not a problem,
Exactly.
that's a
Yep.
solution,
Yep. Yes.
right? What was that problem which you fixed? Was actually that outcome or output of that problem, right? So if I say that 30% people were dropping off from that checkout flow, and after redesigning, we actually solved it and it decreased by
Hmm.
10%. And then you talk about the redesign, so we had to redesign this whole checkout flow, something
Exactly.
like that, right? And then it hooks me that okay, this is the problem, how this person has actually solved it, let me go through it and let me see what that person has done, right? But if you just say that hey, I have redesigned this whole app,
Exactly.
you're gone in that second.
That's right.
So that's one thing I would like to highlight. And I have been taking a lot of interviews, and it's a pattern I see. People always they don't know how to differentiate a problem, a solution, a outcome, and an output. All four are different.
Can you explain a bit about these four things and how they are differentiated?
I'll just give
Yeah, yeah.
an example, okay? Imagine I just took checkout, right? Checkout. So I got this problem and I saw the funnel numbers that okay, 20% of people are actually dropping off from the
Right.
last screen
Yeah.
or something like that, and I have to reduce it. What all will I do? Right? And what will be the outcome of that redesign? So if I go and find out all the
Mhm.
funnels and see that okay, we have some three steps in it, and that's why it becomes very very confusing. There are so many input fields we are taking which is not even important for us, all that we find out, all that, and we say no, now we need to
Right.
redesign it. That's one solution, which I'm overall solution which I'm talking about. Now you give input to it. Okay, what all will you do to actually solve that
Okay.
problem,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That's your input. Outcome is basically what will happen when you actually successfully move it to
Right.
prod, which is it will reduce the tat of the checkout
Mm-hmm.
of users. It will increase that. Maybe earlier it used to take 20 minutes for someone to complete the whole flow, it will take some 10 minutes, something like that. So it will reduce the tat is what I'm saying. And it will not have numbers, to be very honest. Outcome is not number heavy because you don't know what all numbers will you achieve. Output is that number, because once you have solved it, now you have to see how much you have solved, and that actually is like outcome and output is similar to each other but
Right.
different
Right.
a little. Outcome is what will you
Right.
get from that, which is before prod it goes to prod, and output
Get
is
out.
which you get
Yeah. It's
out of
like an
prod.
impact.
So that's the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
difference.
Correct. I
Yes.
mean, that's. I remember this is something that we studied in our college about problem, solution, output, outcome, like as full process of design methodology. It's
Yes,
so,
yes,
and it's very
yes, yes.
important to actually highlight this because we do get confused between problem and even the solution. As
Yes.
you just mentioned, we don't know what the problem is. We just start with
Problem
the
is, yeah,
solution that, yeah,
solution.
that's
Yes, yes, yes. And it's okay to be confused, but somebody has to like take those feedback and
mhm,
fix those. Sometimes what happens, people don't even take it as a feedback. That is also what I see. Let's say what is the problem, this is so, this is fine, like no, this is not fine, this is the solution which you're talking about. This is like if you have to redesign this whole thing, it's a solution. What was the problem? You come back, or maybe they have that problem written in that
mhm,
portfolio, but that's not their first slide, that's their third slide. So imagine if they have shared it async with me and I have just seen the problem, I'm gone. I'll not go through their whole portfolio. I'll be like, this is not structured
right,
thinking, right? This is not linear
exactly.
thinking. Like first you talk about problem, you talk about how, and then you talk about what all will you do to solve that problem, and then the solution, and then the input, then outcome and output,
Yeah.
right? So it should be structured like that. And that I see is a major problem I see in today's portfolio.
Right, got it. So, as a follow-up question to what we just talked about, what do you think is the right way to actually identify a problem? Because I would say designers' main job is to identify problems. Problem identification is a skill
Yes,
that designers should always have, and that's what they
yes,
always struggle with.
yes,
What in today's
yes.
time, how and from where they should actually pick problems or identify problems?
I think, see, I have a different thought process to it. So designers are very good at finding the problems. They are very good at it. But If you're working in a company, imagine in a startup or in a very big company, and if you want to put up a case that I need to solve this problem, right? Anybody, if you're working with a CEO, CPO, or any big company where you had directly reporting to your manager or so, what case will you put up? What, after solving that problem, what is the outcome of it? What is the business impact you are going to
Right.
bring? They are not able to, keep that, and because of that their things are not being picked, and they feel that okay, design is not being given that table where we come up with solutioning, we actually solve everything and all. They only think that okay, we have to set this problem, we have to solve this, but they don't talk about what problem they'll solve, and because of that what will actually be the business impact. Now you'll say UI, if I'm uplifting a UI fixes in an app or in a
Mm-hmm.
platform, what outcome will
Yeah.
it have? What business impact will it
Right.
have? You'll ask this. Anybody will come and ask this. Don't you think if we solve the UI, if you solve the UX, if we solve delight, if we solve micro interaction, will it, is it not equivalent to better CSAT? And better CSAT is equivalent to people saying and talking that okay, this is a really good app, it gives me
Yep,
dopamine and all
definitely.
that. Is it not
That is,
interconnected?
yeah.
It is, right? So every problem statement has some sort of business impact. It cannot be without business
Right.
impact.
So what I could understand from this is that before or like coming to a problem statement, you should definitely understand what is going to be the impact, the business impact of that problem statement. Otherwise, it's not a
Yeah,
good problem
yeah,
to be solved for. And I've
yes,
been hearing
yes,
this all this time, even during my college before that, and now when I'm working, that you know, is this the right problem to solve or not? And that's something that you understand when you get those numbers, that data, how many users are facing this problem, how many are not, and how much it will impact the existing customers.
correct,
Right.
yes, exactly. So you have to map that, and there are some prioritization frameworks. Like if imagine you have some, you have done, you're working on an app and you have to do a proper analysis paralysis of all the audits you have done, and there are some 1200 debts, design debts I'm talking about, which you have found, UI, UX, copy, flow
Yeah.
debts, all that, right? How will you prioritize it? You cannot pick all those 1200 right away, right? So you have
Right.
to prioritize it. You prioritize it by high effort,
Yeah.
low
Yeah.
impact. That is like your P0. Then your high effort, high impact P1, then low effort, low impact P3, and then your high effort, low impact becomes defer, or you
Yep.
drop it. You drop it. You don't pick it because you are actually putting in your effort in that, and you will not even be able to show the impact part
Right.
of it, right? So that's why don't even touch it. So that is how you actually map it. And that is, now you'll say that maybe this is a manager's role to do, or maybe it is a person who is a senior or a lead should do it. I think everybody should do
Yep.
it. Everyone should do it if they want that high ownership, if they want to have that intent of solving something, and if they come with this framework, then they will be able to pitch anything and everything and put it in their
Definitely.
roadmaps.
That's such a good insight because you know what, like initially, and this is exactly something that I have learned at my company as well, how you actually pick that right problem. Because after doing like a big research work that you have done, you have come up with so many problems identified. Now, which one would you going to pick? Not all, of course. So you make sure you make that mapping of high effort, low impact, and impact versus effort basically, and then pick that one problem
Yes,
that you're going to solve, and then like you'll put that in a roadmap basically.
yes,
So let's deviate a little bit from this and also talk about, because this is another one of the biggest questions that I've been getting from all the designers, and many of us actually struggle with deciding what to include and what not to include in our portfolios, because as you just mentioned that you are, as a user, as a recruiter, you are the user for that portfolio, right? And you, after like reviewing 60 portfolios every other day, you feel so overwhelmed. So, what should designers actually avoid or maybe add in their portfolios so that for you it's a good experience and not overwhelming at all and like a delightful experience?
I think most of us get really confused with, and you're right that when we are working on that portfolio, we feel like putting anything and everything and showing that how much work we have
Yes.
done, right? And how much effort we have put in making that whole work go live, or maybe even if it's VIP or so on. But we don't understand that uh, it becomes too much. You will not be able to cover in 1 hour, or maybe you'll not be able to cover in maybe a person, if he or she who is going through that portfolio is not able to go it through by 10 minutes also, they will not read it through. They will say like, okay, this is so much of gyan, I'm not going to read it, right? So they should actually do a very simple test. Delete anything that doesn't change my mind, like change a person who is reading that whole portfolio. Delete everything that doesn't change mind of the reviewer about a decision. Delete everything. Most processes slides are proof of what you have worked
Hmm.
hard on. They are not proof of what you have thought.
Wow. Correct.
So delete everything which you feel like. Example, why do I need to know? There are slides where I see that there is a diamond process. There's a double diamond process flow. Then there is
Yes,
define
delete,
all
empathize.
that design processes. You have 5 design processes. You have empathize, all that you have. Then you have personas ready for it. It's not changing your
Indeed, yeah.
decision.
Yeah.
Remove it. It's just
Right.
chaos, right? We know you are a designer, you would have done
Right.
all those. So trust your instincts and remove all those which are just clutter in your
Yeah.
portfolio. Be very to the point.
True. I'll give like another example because I keep reviewing students' portfolio for this examination, right? Because we also have like a process of portfolio. And in that, when I actually go through their portfolios, I see that definitely, as I just mentioned, they dump everything and anything. Like whatever we have done, whatever research we could get from internet and all so textual. And my only thing that I actually suggest these students is that add only those chunk of things which you feel that there can be some question that can be asked from this part, and let everything be aside so that you can talk about it when you are in front of the recruiter, right? Like keep
Yeah.
everything as a
Yeah.
dialogue for yourself. Whatever research you have done, just show the impactful things, those data, those decisions.
I think I will be more interested if you have done a redesigning of a page or of
Mhm.
maybe a flow. I will be more interested in actually your variations. How many variations you
Yeah.
have done, right? If you have done those 4 variations, I would like to know what were the other 3 variations and why did it not
Yes.
go live? What were the
Right.
trade-offs in those, and why was that variation one which you felt was the
Right.
best? I would like to know that, and I would like to know how deeply are you thinking about your user and how have you catered to it in that one solution you're
Right.
talking about. Usually people just say we did a lot of variations, we did 100 variations and this is the final. No, I would like to see those 100
Right.
variations, maybe those 5 variations more, like which you felt like these were the 5 best which we came out with. I want to show those 5 variations
Right, right.
upfront.
And like a very insightful thing to actually pick from here, that what is important for recruiters is to show the decisions that you have made, like the decision which made this option
Yes.
not good and the decision
Yes.
that made that option
Yes.
a fit one, which is exactly what we
Yes.
all
Yes.
should be putting up in our portfolios, which we eventually
Yes.
miss.
Yes, which we eventually miss because, see, my portfolio, your portfolio, anybody else's portfolio, right? One what thing is common? That double diamond process is common. That design system process is common. Maybe personas will be a little different, but the way personas are made, the structure will be common. But what will not be common is those
Right. Yeah.
variations. those problem statement variations, those will be proper, like very different, and the trade-offs which you'll take, that will be
Mm-hmm.
very different. It does not feel like, okay, you got lucky, you won, it made me feel like, okay, you have done only one variation, then maybe your gut feeling is very good, maybe so your instincts are good, and gut feeling mostly is good for designers, I would say it should be. But you should show variations, you should show all five variations which you have worked
Correct.
upon, so that people see how much thought process you have in that problem, and you have that user empathy to solve anything and everything which user is going
Right.
through.
You actually answered my next question, which was around like, what is more important, the final solution or the process or the decisions that the
The
journey.
journey, the
Always the
journey, of
journey.
course, the journey, the journey. See, sometimes what happens is even product will come to you and say that we have to redesign this whole experience, right? And we right away go into a execution mode, right? But we ourselves, we know that this is a task, this is from roadmap, and CEO has said that this has to be redesigned. But if you're thinking in systems, and if you want the journey or you want the solution to be like very very good, I think a designer should also do his or her own
Right.
research
Mhm.
by actually doing
Hmm.
audits by himself of the whole thing. First is that. Second is talking to the existing customers who have gone through all that, right? Listening to CX
Yeah.
calls if they have CX team in house. Listening to CX calls. That's the third way to do the user research. And fourth is actually talking to their stakeholders. That why did you pick
Hmm.
this redesign? Why? Tell me, ask those whys,
Yeah.
5 why framework, why, and you get the answer, and then you start redesigning it. Maybe you will find other loopholes which haven't been covered in the existing, which you can pick in the redesign, and you solve everything for the
Exactly.
user.
So they were like, what the other thing that is coming to my mind as we are just conversing about it, that all these things are something I would say 2024 things where we actually follow the processes, do everything manually, audits and all these things. Now in this era of AI, have you like come
AI.
across such portfolios, and how do you feel about it? And what are the things that you feel is good when it is generated via AI, and things which should be just you, not AI?
Yeah. Okay. So I use AI every day myself, and I'm not going to be precise about it. But yes, I usually understand who has used AI and who has not. So, usually, right now, what I see is people, I would not quote designers, people have started using AI as their first brain.
Yes.
They don't use it as their
Hmm.
second brain, and that's the problem we are going
Yep.
getting into, right? Because when you see a portfolio, right, uh, if it is made from AI, right, you will not have major trade-offs written in those AIs, because the conversations you which you have in the room with a developer, that hey, we will not be able to do this in this time, so there's
Yep.
scope cut,
Yeah.
right? The design
Yes.
changes. All that AI
Yep.
will not do, because AI is not in that room to have that conversation, right? So AI will always make a happy path,
Yep. True.
a happy scenario. Nothing wrong happened. But do you think in real life nothing wrong happens? No, right? So you get an understanding when you skim the portfolio that okay, this is all AI. And you should use AI, of course, and it's a wrong expectation to have that everybody has a very good English. Maybe an articulation is also something which designers should have, of course, but not all of us have good articulation. But there are designers who are very good, who lack
Correct.
articulation, right? Uh, and for that you can use AI, like you write all those things down, you make your first cut, and you talk about what all you have thought through, what all problems you have gone through, and let AI actually structure it for you. Don't use AI to do the whole first draft
Yes.
and all that. That is becomes a
Right,
problem.
right. So, like you are saying that it does actually affect your evaluation in interview when you look at a portfolio, which is
Of course, of course, yes, it
right.
does, it does.
So, with that, currently I'm working on a project like in my own company, which is like totally research oriented, and this was again suggested like whatever interviews that I'm having with the customers, with the SMEs and all, get all those transcription and get the insights driven from AI. Don't waste your time in actually going through the full video again and like take out insights. Definitely there are some things which get stuck to your head
Of
that
course,
you can keep
yes,
it, but
yes.
like the whole thing can be done through AI. But the whole other thing, understanding and coming to the solution, or maybe identifying the problem from those insights, it's your job. It's not the AI that's to do that.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. That's what we're talking about. Like you read the AI can do the transcripting for you. AI will do all that thing. And earlier it used to take one hour or 2 hour or maybe the whole day if we sit and just go through all the meetings and all. Maybe AI can transcript it for you and give you a summarized view, right? That you can take care of, but use AI as your second brain. Don't use it like your
Hmm.
first brain. It will create problems
Right.
for you if you don't. You'll stop thinking creatively or critically. That will become a
I guess
problem.
that is a very good point. Like, you will stop thinking creatively and critically as well at the same time when you know that there's AI who's going to do this job for me and I'm not going to do it.
I see if we only we are if you use AI to also design everything, all of the apps will look very similar
Definitely.
in next
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
It will. So what disruptive it can be? It has to be very, very different looking. It has to have some sort of delightful factor which is different from each other, which AI might not be able to, which a designer brings to the table. And that's where you have to play the role.
Definitely. But do you think that it is actually affecting our creativity in some manner as designers?
I think yes, at some extent it is. Right now, the way industry is, even a lot of people are confused why to use AI, where to use AI, and if a product designer's role will exist or not. Is our job in safe?
Yeah.
Is safe or not? All that is happening, and you go to LinkedIn, you see so many posts, and you get those kind of
Yeah.
anxiety as well. But in a very simple words, earlier, during the time when I was a kid, my father was in bank, right? And that time computer was just penetrating into Indian market, and they were working on everything on a register
Yeah.
manually. There was no computer for them. So a lot of people were scared that okay, computer will come and our jobs will go, computer will do everything for us, and all that happened, right? But it became mandatory for my father to learn how to
Use computer.
run on use computer. And he took a very explicit course, like 1 year course, which was actually given by bank for him. So he used it and he started using it. He actually, we were also in that, I was like what, sixth standard or seventh standard. And we used to help him out that this is how you make Excel, this is how you do all that, because we were also being taught in school. So he learned it. So do you think banks have
No.
shut?
Yeah.
No, right? New jobs have
Yeah.
come up, right? So it, every 10 years or 20 years something comes up and it disrupts the market, and that's how we will develop in
Yeah.
nature, right? That change is the new constant, is what we talk about. We just have to adopt or adapt to what is actually changing in the market. And I feel uh, in near future there will be, and I don't know, I'm just forecasting it, and I don't know if I'm a good forecaster, but there'll be design specialist who will play a very
Hmm.
important role. And the way industry is going, if you see back to 10 years back, there was UI designer who was a separate role, UX was a separate role, then it became similar and it became product designer role. Now product designer role will go down and service designers will go up
Correct.
because of
Yes,
AI.
I was actually on call with one of the students yesterday, and she was asking the same question. She was asking me, like, do you know anyone who's in a role of a UX researcher or a neuroscience designer? And I was like, wait a second. I've never heard of these roles, at least not now. Because,
Yeah, it will come, it will come, of
yes,
course. So But the difference between product designer and service designer is maybe the role, but usually every designer who deep dives into the problem statement can actually map it. It's basically on a holistic level in a company. What is the journey of a user? And it's not on app,
Yeah.
FYI. It could be anything and
Yep.
everything.
That's
So, one very good example I will give you of a company's Apple who has great service design. Great. And it's not only phone. They have,
the
if
whole
you go to
ecosystem.
the whole ecosystem, right? So, when they launch a phone, they actually do a proper 1 hour session with their users or future users that this is, hey, this is what we are launching and this is what is new, and they make the it look larger
Yeah.
than life, right? So people actually aspire to buy Apple. When you go to the store, they were the first one to actually have live demo phones, not demo,
Yeah.
like phones. They were the first one. Now Samsung is doing it, other folks are doing it, but they were the one who actually wanted user to touch, look, feel, use, and then buy it, right? So that was service design. They were so like years ahead of their
Exactly.
times, and that is what I think every company would need, which even company level people aren't thinking, but this is the future I see, because now product design work will itself will shrink so much because of AI. Now a product designer can become a service designer and do all these
Right.
things,
Exactly.
like not designing, but actually plan it and maybe identify the pain points and actually find opportunities and start designing
Right.
that way, right? So one example I could give you is Lego, or maybe IKEA, for example. Have you made any IKEA furniture?
Yeah.
It's a puzzle.
Yes. Exactly. Right.
It's a puzzle, right? So when you open a IKEA furniture, they have a guide,
Yes.
a booklet, right? And you can actually, they have done it so nicely, they have designed it so nicely that even with the booklet itself, that you can actually, without any human intervention, you can actually build anything and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
from that booklet. And that's a very good service
Yeah.
design. People will say it's packaging design, that packaging design is part of that
Yep.
service design.
Service design is like the full big umbrella under which these small chunks are actually coming
Yeah,
into. And that's such a good example
yeah,
because we
yeah.
always come touch upon these companies like IKEA. We have like so many things at our own home and
And yeah, and that creates
yes.
dopamine also, right? So imagine a very good service design will lead to business impact also. So whenever I make a Lego, uh, try building a Lego one day. So when you buy a Lego, right, you have they are in package. They are in one, two, three, four, five. They are not
Yeah.
like whole. So they have made it like that. You make one first, then you make two first, then three, four, five, and then when you're done with everything, then you compile it, and that becomes your Lego
Right.
piece. So they have a booklet, and then they have separated it out by one, two, three, four, five. And end May, when you get to see that, okay, you have built a Harry Potter castle out of it, you feel like, oh, I have built this. It's a dopamine which releases, right? So I'm gonna buy this again. I'm gonna buy it for myself, or if it's a Harry Potter, I will buy now. I'll buy a bus, Harry Potter bus, and I'll do it on the weekends. And maybe I will do an activity with my folks or my friends, and then you go back, you buy it again. So it's like people will go buy, but imagine it was not solved properly, and it was just like only puzzle, and it wasn't structured and sectioned properly. So a very good design actually has a very good business impact.
Definitely, for sure. And that's what I would say designers' role is actually evolving into now, right? So,
Yes,
before
yes.
jumping into the next part of it, just like last few things which you would actually like to communicate to the audience who are going to see, like if you are sending a portfolio or your resume to Divya, what it should have and what it should not.
First slide, please talk about problem statements. Usually, I'll be very honest. I see the first slide and I go to the last slide and I see what is the impact after that. It went live. It could be numbers, it could be CSAT, it could be anything. And then I go back and I read
Right,
everything. So, structure it
right.
that way. Has to
One
have
question:
impact.
what do you
Yes.
mean by CSAT, like so that everyone knows?
Okay, so when you use any app, right, or anything, you get a pop up that are you happy using
Yes.
this app,
Yes.
right? That is, and you give 1 star, it goes to Google or it goes to
Yep.
App Store, right? So it is interconnected. the CSAT I'm talking about. So that's your number, right? So if it's if you're, because user don't know na that backend what is happening
Right.
in the backend, right? User only see the skin, and that skin who is designing? Us, right? So that is kind of interrelated to our design. So CSAT is like the Google Play Store numbers, and even our App Store numbers are actually, we also are kind of owners of
Yes,
that.
right.